April. April.
Some of you popped with that last list of bad PS1 games, so why not go back to the well? With 8.9 billion titles released on Sony's first console, it's obvious there were more than just 5 stinkers, even if I ignore the low-hanging fruit of most licensed tie-ins, which I'm going to continue to do here. So here we go, without much in the way of fanfare, because none of it will be warranted. 5 more PlayStation games that were the absolute worst the system had to offer. Listo! This is like kicking a puppy. Hilarious. Wait, no, not that. Terrible. It's terrible and bad to kick a puppy. So I hear, never tried it. Still, criticising OVERBLOOD is too easy a target, and the game itself was too charming in its incompetence for me to really cry foul and go for any available jugulars. A survival horror game, OVERBLOOD relied more heavily on both puzzle solving and scraping every area twice, both standing and crouched, to try and find the key items you might miss and ruin your game by missing. One of those sorts of games. You played as Raz and Peepo, his little robot friend, who is excellent, as well as another character later on. It actually had some things going for it. The story to OVERBLOOD, Clones and Super Soldiers, wasn't that bad. And the triple character dynamic, where you were able to switch between a specific twosome at any point, was pretty cool for the time. Also, Raz looked a bit like Barry Burton, always a point in the pros column. And old reviews ran with this. You can find some scathing ones, but generally speaking it seems OVERBLOOD was seen as not great, not terrible, but something you might want to have a play of if you have the spare money and a few hours to get through it. Well, a few dozen hours to figure out all the illogical insanity within the game, but still. Those old reviews were, of course, stupid and wrong. OVERBLOOD was toilet, it just was. It was utterly endearing though, and holds a special place in the heart of anyone who's ever seen its crouch walk animation in motion. Like a video game version of The Room or Plan 9 from Outer Space, OVERBLOOD was genuinely able to provide entertainment for a while. And there's surely an audience out there that revels in its campy crapness to this day. As such, I can never and will never be completely down on it. But it is still one of the worst games on PlayStation. ARMORINES, subtitled Project Swarm outside of Europe, or should that be SWARM, was a relatively early 3D first-person shooter made specifically for console. It was also based on a comic book series, so breaks my no license games rule, but really it wasn't a game trading on any particular name recognition, so it gets a pass. A sort of riff on Starship Troopers, I guess. ARMORINES saw you trundling around confusing and sparse and ugly 3D levels, taking on all manner of bug enemies as either a male or female armoured marine. I just got the title. ARMORINES used the Turok 2 engine to power things and was made with the N64 in mind, with a PlayStation port tacked on because why ignore the world's most popular console at the time? Why indeed? Now, few would argue in good faith or free of the shackles of rose-spectacled nostalgia that ARMORINES was a good game on the N64. It just worked significantly better on the platform. As I said, it was based on the Turok 2 engine, which was native to the 64-bit machine, and it utilised the expansion pack for some extreme high-res modes, well, 640 by 480 at least. So the game had to be ported to PS1 using an engine not built to play to the system's strengths, and it had no headway to use any extra RAM for those lovely and special high-res modes the Ninty version was capable of. ARMORINES was made for the N64, and it really showed. What it also showed was just how ruinous a bad port could be. It ran worse on PS1, obviously. Uglier, slower, with more crunkly textures, technical term. Your first hit from the game was right in the mush with a slap of, hey, look at what the PlayStation can't do. This was swiftly followed up with a look at what you, the player, couldn't do, given the game had translated its control scheme from a pad suited to FPSs to one not suited to FPSs. But rather than make a go of things and give you a Medal of Honor or Quake 2 style of making the most of it, ARMORINES put forwards and backwards on the shoulder buttons. I mean, you could change the control scheme to slightly better, though still not good ones, but the default controls were holding an R button to go forwards and holding another R button to go backwards. I cannot begin to gather the strength to even pretend to try and understand that one. So yes, a game completely unsuited to the system it was being ported to was ported to said system. It wasn't a good game to begin with, but with a lack of technical oomph behind it, with poor porting across the board, and with some utter dogshit controls in hand, ARMORINES went from a pile of forgettable grey mush to a big steaming pile of turd right in the middle of your living room floor. Not a good look. I've always had a soft spot for Carmageddon. Simplistic to the point of idiocy, it revelled in carnage both fleshy and metallic. Sure, it was a racing game at a foundational level, but you just didn't have to bother with that if you didn't want to. Smash up all your opponents or kill every bystander on the track to win instead, the preferred approach. What could possibly go wrong in bringing something so very straightforward to the PS1? Technically based on Carmageddon 2, the PlayStation version was just called Carmageddon and actually featured tracks not seen on the PC version along with some different cars. So unique and exclusive and all that jazz, right? Well, yeah, I guess. In the same way you are unique and exclusive if you go to Frankie and Benny's and order some jackfruit bites topped with blue slush puppy. You are unique and exclusive, but you're still terrible. And I'm still waiting for that sweet Frankie and Benny sponsorship money to land in my account, but hey. Given how terribly it all ran, you would assume the developer Aqua Pacific had to have built everything specifically for the PS1. Mostly new cars, all new levels, polygonal zombies to run over, and so on. And yet Carmageddon on PS1 did nothing right. The exclusive levels were poorly designed, confusing and utterly grey throughout. They didn't feel as smart or really as fun as those on PC. The new cars? No idea. All much of a mushy muchness. Polygonal zombies? Yeah, they existed with about 3.2 frames of animation apiece. Whopping. But Carmageddon's cardinal sin, like a car, vroom vroom, was in the handling. It was, as I said, a simple game, so we could put up with all manner of quirks and irritations, bland courses, polygonal glitching, idiotic AI, just as long as the basics were right. But this was a game where you would press left or right to steer, and actual, noticeable, measurable time would pass before your car would react. When it did decide to react, you would suddenly be out of control of a metallic Bambi very much on ice. To say the handling was bad would be like saying social media is a bit of a breeding ground for far-right morons, an understatement in the extreme. So a game that looked like garbage and ran like a joke that could have been redeemed if the developer had just got the core element of driving a car right, fell apart right before our eyes. It should have been at the very least a basic laugh. Carmageddon was instead a complete write-off. Many of you watching this will have been fortunate enough to live anywhere other than Europe and so not actually have had the game release in your territory. Lucky buggers. One thing going for it though is, unlike with ARMORINES, the N64 version of the game was somehow received more poorly than on PlayStation, so it wasn't quite the absolute worst version? Small mercies. I don't know what Chaos Break was trying to be. An arcadey first-person shooter? A bit, following in the footsteps of its arcade precursor Chaos Heat as it did. Survival horror? Yeah, there was survival to be done and horror to be encountered, sure. A cinematic action classic? Well, I hope it wasn't trying to be that because it failed spectacularly there. Even if it was another one of those you were able to enjoy for its baditude. Honestly, there isn't much to say. Chaos Break had you kicking robots in the face, traipsing around to try and find doors and doors that need keys, reading badly translated emails, and then kicking more robots in the face before sometimes being rewarded with an excellently terrible cutscene. Sub-Resident Evil levels of voice acting? Yes, indeedy.
My God. What's this hole?
But just like with OVERBLOOD, Maybe it's the survival horror aspect. There was little about Chaos Break to make me actively angry with it. Without a doubt, it's one of the PlayStation's very worst. A mix of loose control, illogical design, and general jankiness coming together to form something that nobody should have bothered forming to begin with. So the game absolutely earns its spot on this list. It's just another one you enjoy laughing at rather than intentionally avoiding your entire life.
No way.
Rounding this list out is one of my absolute favourite examples of garbage, Perfect Weapon. From the name, through the intro where our hero is wearing this weird skin-tight tactical jumpsuit thing in a random kickboxing bout or something, through how when you try and do anything the protagonist doesn't want to, like say walking in a direction, it's met with a "no way." This was a truly incredible title from start to finish. From the way the game was marketed as Tekken 2 meets Resident Evil, through how the voice actor for the main character sounded like the bloke who does Agent 47 in the Hitman series, it's not him, through to how some levels involve you kicking ocelots, through the god-awful, very PS1 mix of pre-rendered backgrounds and shoddy polygonal characters and enemies, through to how you kill alien monkeys that then prolapse, through the game's promotional art, through... I could go on. Perfect Weapon was absolute garbage from start to finish, and I love it. From the main character's name, Blake Hunter, through its Japanese title of Body Hazard, through the endless crouching sweeps to defeat most enemies, through the garbage controls barely reacting and static camera angles being utterly unhelpful when trying to target enemies, through how in the game's demo that plays when you don't press start, Blake Hunter keeps on getting beaten up even though he's the perfect weapon, through how for some reason this actually got a re-release on the PlayStation Store. You've just gotta give it an for effort. I like to think developer Grey Matter when naming Perfect Weapon was using the term weapon in the pejorative slang sense, because I see no way in all of reality it could have thought there was anything perfect about this game in a positive sense. Absolutely incredible stuff. Maybe I'll come back to this topic one day. For now, bye!
No way. No way. No way. No way. No way.